My family, who chose my wife's side, came back to me after I won the lottery. The day my family showed up at my doorstep begging for forgiveness was the most surreal moment of my life. It was a Tuesday afternoon, and I was still riding the high of winning $12 million in the state lottery just a week earlier. I barely had time to process the fact that I was a multimillionaire when my phone started blowing up with messages from my parents, my sister, and even my ex-wife, all people who'd turned their backs on me 3 years ago when my marriage fell apart. They didn't just abandon me. They picked her side, left me rotting in my own misery, and now here they were, acting like nothing happened. My mom was crying through the doorbell camera, saying they'd made a huge mistake, while my dad just stood there, hands in his pockets, looking awkward. My sister was texting me nonstop about how family sticks together, and my ex-wife had the nerve to send me a selfie with a caption about new beginnings. I stood there, frozen, watching them through the security feed, wondering how they even found my new address. Then it hit me, they didn't care about me before the money, and now that I had it, they were crawling back like nothing ever happened. I didn't open the door. I didn't respond. I just sat there, staring at the screen, feeling a mix of rage and disbelief wash over me. 3 years of silence, and now this? It was the kind of plot twist I never saw coming. Even after everything they'd already put me through. 3 years ago, my life fell apart, and my family didn't just watch it happen, they helped shove me off the cliff. I've been married to Jenna for 8 years. We met in college, got hitched right after graduation, and built a decent life together, 2 cars, a house in the suburbs, the whole deal. Then she cheated. She didn't even try to hide it. I found out through a text she sent to her best friend, Lisa, about some guy she'd been seeing for months. When I confronted her, she didn't deny it. She just packed a bag and left. The divorce was brutal. She took half of everything, including my savings, and I was stuck with a mortgage I could barely afford. My family didn't care. My parents, Tom and Linda, said I should have tried harder to keep her happy. My sister, Kelly, told me I was too boring and that Jenna deserved better. They didn't come to my side or check on me. Instead, they went to her place for Thanksgiving that year, leaving me alone with a microwave dinner. I called my mom once, begging for support, and she said, "Jenna's family now. You'll figure it out." That was the last time we spoke. I cut them all off after that, blocked their numbers, moved to a new city, and started over. It was me against the world, and I was fine with that. I got a job at a warehouse, kept my head down, and rebuilt my life one paycheck at a time. They didn't reach out, and I didn't expect them to. That was my family, loyal to Jenna, not me. Until, of course, the money changed everything. I won the lottery one morning, and it turned my life inside out. It happened out of nowhere. I bought a ticket on a whim, not expecting anything. The next day, I found out I'd won while listening to the radio. My heart raced as I confirmed it, and by the end of the week, the money was mine. At first, I felt stunned, then relieved. After years of struggling alone, I could finally stop worrying. I quit my job, paid off my house, and kept it quiet. I didn't tell anyone. For 2 days, it was just me, soaking in the freedom, the weight off my shoulders. Then Jenna texted me. "Hey, congrats on the win. Can we meet up?" My chest tightened. 3 years without a word, and now she was back? Her message hit me hard, shallow, calculated. The hurt from her leaving me, from her betrayal, rushed back. I didn't respond. I deleted it and turned off my phone. She didn't get to waltz back in after abandoning me. But I knew it wasn't over. The wind didn't just give me a new start. It dragged up everything I'd buried, and I could feel the storm brewing. Jenna's text was just the beginning, and I should have seen the rest coming. 2 days after I ignored her, my phone started lighting up with messages from my family. First, it was my mom. She sent a long text about how she'd always believed in me, and how proud she was of my win. My dad followed with a shorter one, saying he hoped I was doing okay and that they'd love to catch up. Then my sister, Kelly, chimed in, writing about how much she missed me and how family sticks together no matter what. I sat there, staring at my phone, feeling my blood boil. These were the same people who ditched me when I needed them most. When Jenna left me, they didn't call to check in. They didn't care that I was drowning in debt and depression. Instead, they picked her side, went to her house for holidays, and acted like I didn't exist. My mom had even told me Jenna was family now when I begged for their support. 3 years of nothing, and now they were back because I'd won the lottery? It wasn't even subtle. A few hours later, the tone shifted. Kelly texted again, saying she was going through some stuff and could use my help. My dad sent another message about hard times they were facing. My mom wrote about how they'd made mistakes but wanted to make things right. None of them said what their problems were, just vague hints, like they were fishing for me to offer cash. I didn't bite. I typed back one message to all of them. "Your problems aren't mine anymore. You left me when I was at my lowest and chose Jenna. I'm done." Then I muted their numbers. The anger felt good at first, sharp and righteous, but it left a hollow ache too. They didn't care about me. They cared about the money. I built a wall around myself after they abandoned me, and now they were trying to claw their way back in. It wasn't just Jenna's betrayal that cut deep. It was theirs too. and I wasn't about to let them forget it after shutting down my family. I thought I'd feel some peace, but the anger just kept simmering. A week later, I ran into Lisa, Jenna's best friend, at a coffee shop. She'd been Jenna's rock during the divorce, the one who'd known about the affair and never told me. I hadn't seen her in years, but there she was, ordering a latte like nothing had happened. She spotted me, hesitated, then walked over. She said she'd heard about the win and congratulated me. I nodded, keeping it short, but she kept talking about how she'd always felt bad about how things went down, how Jenna had changed after the divorce. I didn't buy it, but I let her ramble. Then she asked if I wanted to grab a drink sometime. Something clicked. I said yes, not because I trusted her, but because I saw a chance to get back at Jenna. We met up that weekend at a bar. One drink turned into three, and before I knew it, we were hooking up at my place. It wasn't about love or even liking her. It was spite, pure and simple. I wanted Jenna to hurt like I had, and sleeping with her best friend felt like the perfect jab. Lisa didn't seem to mind. She was all in, texting me the next day like we were a couple. I didn't care about her feelings. I was using her, and maybe she was using me too. Word got back to Jenna fast. She texted me again, furious, calling me a jerk and saying I'd crossed a line. I didn't respond, but the satisfaction was there, bitter and sharp. My family found out too. Kelly sent me a message about how disgusting I was being, and my mom left a voicemail crying about how I was ruining everything. I didn't reply to them either. The affair with Lisa kept going, messy and reckless, and I leaned into it. It wasn't about fixing anything. It was about tearing down what they built. Without meth affair with Lisa lit a fuse, and it didn't take long for things to explode. 2 weeks into it, Jenna showed up at my house unannounced. I was in the living room when the doorbell rang, and there she was on the security camera, arms crossed, face red with anger. I didn't want to let her in, but she kept ringing, so I opened the door. She stormed past me, yelling about how I'd stooped so low, sleeping with Lisa just to hurt her. Her voice was loud, shaking, and she paced the room like she still owned the place. I stood there, arms folded, letting her vent. She said I was pathetic, that the money had gone to my head, that I was throwing away any chance of being a decent person. It was rich, coming from her, after she'd cheated, taken half my life, and left me to rot. I didn't yell back. I just told her she didn't get to judge me anymore, that she lost that right when she walked out. That set her off more. She brought up my family, saying they were devastated, that I was punishing everyone for her mistakes. I snapped then, told her they chose her over me, and now they could deal with the consequences. She stopped pacing, stared at me, and for a second, I thought she might cry. Instead, she said I'd regret it, that I was turning into someone she didn't recognize. I said good, because I didn't recognize her either, not after what she'd done. She left after that, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the windows. I stood there, adrenaline pumping, feeling raw. The fight didn't fix anything, it just made the rift wider. Lisa texted me later, asking if I was okay, but I didn't answer. The high from spiting Jenna was fading, and all I had left was this mess I'd made. Jenna's visit left me rattled, but it was just the start of the chaos. The next day, my phone started blowing up again, this time with group texts from my family. Kelly was the ringleader, sending paragraph after paragraph about how I'd destroyed them by hooking up with Lisa and fighting with Jenna. She said I was selfish, that I was using the money to push everyone away when they were just trying to fix things. My mom chimed in with a guilt trip, saying she couldn't sleep knowing I hated them, that she'd never meant to hurt me. My dad's message was short. He just said I was making it harder on everyone. None of them mentioned their own choices, how they'd left me high and dry 3 years ago. It was all about what I was doing now, like the past didn't exist. I didn't respond, but the messages kept coming. Kelly even hinted they might show up at my house again, saying they deserved a chance to talk face to face. Meanwhile, Lisa was getting clingier, texting me constantly, showing up uninvited with takeout, acting like we were serious. I'd started the affair to mess with Jenna, but now it was turning into something I couldn't control. I told Lisa I needed space, and she got upset, saying I was shutting her out too. The irony wasn't lost on me. Everyone wanted a piece of me now that I had something to offer. My family kept pushing. Lisa wouldn't back off, and Jenna sent one last text calling me a coward for not facing her again. I turned my phone off and sat in the dark, feeling trapped. The money was supposed to set me free, but it had turned into a magnet for everything I tried to leave behind. The pressure kept building until I hit a wall. A few days after the group texts, my family actually showed up at my house again. I saw them on the security camera, my mom, dad, and Kelly, standing on the porch like a united front. My mom was knocking, my dad was pacing, and Kelly was holding a box, probably some cheap peace offering. I didn't open the door. I watched them through the feed, my stomach in knots. They stayed for 20 minutes, knocking and calling my name, before they finally left. Kelly sent a text after, saying I was heartless, that they were falling apart, and I was their only hope. I deleted it without replying. Then Lisa showed up that night, uninvited again. She'd been drinking, her eyes red, and she started ranting about how I'd used her, how she'd stuck her neck out with Jenna for me. I told her it was never serious, that she knew what this was. She yelled, threw a glass against my wall, and stormed out. The crash echoed in my head long after she was gone. The next morning, Jenna texted again, not angry this time, but cold. She said she was done fighting, that I'd won whatever game I was playing, and she hoped I was happy alone. I wasn't. The house felt too big, too quiet. My family wouldn't stop. Lisa was a loose cannon, and Jenna's words stuck with me. I'd pushed everyone away, but it didn't feel like victory. It felt empty. The money sat in my account, untouched beyond the house, and I realized I didn't know what I wanted anymore. The spite had fueled me, but now it was burning out, and I was left staring at the wreckage after Lisa's blow-up and my family's last visit. I shut down completely. I stopped checking my phone, stopped leaving the house, just sat there with my thoughts. The silence was deafening. My family hadn't texted again, and I figured they'd given up, or were plotting something else. Lisa vanished too. No more drunk rants or surprise visits. Jenna's final message kept replaying in my head. I hope you're happy alone. I wasn't happy, but I wasn't sure I regretted it either. I'd won the lottery, got my revenge, and pushed everyone out, but now what? The money was there, a fat number in my bank account, but it didn't fill the hole they'd left 3 years ago, or the one I'd dug myself since. I thought about reaching out, maybe to my mom, just to see if they'd admit they were wrong, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. The idea of Lisa coming back into the picture made me cringe. She'd been a mistake from the start. Jenna was a closed book. I didn't want her back, not after everything. I started wondering if I should leave, move somewhere new, start over again like I did after the divorce. Or maybe give some of the cash away, ditch the baggage it brought. I've got no clue what's right anymore. The anger's fading, and I'm stuck figuring out what's next. Should I let my family back in, see if they've changed? Cut them off for good? Keep the money and run? Or try to fix this mess? I'm lost here. Reddit, what would you do?